Hey folks, it's Blue here at Blue Bears Games, and for today's video, I will be showing you my latest budget Yuriko the Tiger Shadow Commander build. Before I get to today's video, I want to first take a moment to ask for your help in supporting my channel. The easiest and cheapest ways to show your support are by liking my videos, subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet, sharing any of my content on your socials, and or by watching some of my many other videos that I've created over the years. Additionally, you can support the channel by purchasing Super Thanks, channel memberships, decks that you may have seen on the channel directly from me on the Blue Bears Games Facebook page, and or visiting our sponsor, Arcane Fortress, by using the link that just popped up at the top of your screen and purchasing any of their amazing gaming supplies from them. By using that link specifically, you should receive a 5% discount store-wide. And finally, the last thing you can possibly do to help the channel out is through donations of extra cards that you may have just lying around. Even your bulkiest of bulk will help immensely, so if you'd like to donate to the channel, please message me on the Blue Bears Games Facebook page or email me at bluebearsgames@gmail.com and we can discuss the logistics of how. Anything you can do to help support my small channel is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for it. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. If you follow my channel, you're probably saying, "But Blue, you already did a budget Yuriko Commander build video," and you'd be right. So why am I doing it again? Well, this version, which I'm dubbing version 2.0, while similar to the previous video's build, has an arguably better theory on how to take advantage of Yuriko's second ability. If you don't know what that ability is, let me show you what she does, and I'll explain. Yuriko is 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 generic mana to cast for a 1/3 legendary human ninja with the following 2 abilities. The first ability is called Commander Ninjutsu with a cost of 1 black and 1 blue mana. Yuriko is the only card currently in the game that has this ability, and it's quite strong. How it works is if Yuriko is in either your hand or the command zone, you can pay the stated mana cost and return an unblocked attacker that you control to your hand to put Yuriko onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Like the previous video I did for Yuriko, this deck's main strategy will revolve around this ability, but I will also go over the new theory for this deck that revolves around Yuriko's second ability a little more than the previous version of this deck did. That ability states that whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's mana value. The previous video's version of this deck had a couple of cards with a higher mana value, but my thought process was to keep mana values down as much as possible so you could cast more spells. That's good general advice for most commander decks, but it's not necessarily the case for a Yuriko build. While Yuriko tries to emulate a Voltron build, it's not nearly as good as commanders like Ural or Zur are at it. Sure, you can probably get 1 opponent out of the way quickly with commander damage, but 3 opponents? That's a little harder. You're going to need a little help from Yuriko's second ability along the way if you're playing in a full pod. How I went about taking advantage of the second ability was by using things that have a higher mana cost, but had built-in ways to reduce that cost. That way, you can get chunks of damage off of all of your opponents, but still be able to cast the spells that you need to without struggling for mana. I tried my best to explain exactly what I mean, but maybe not clearly enough for everybody to understand, so why don't I just show you what I mean. So like I normally like to do, I'll start by showing you the lands that I chose. It's not very different from the previous iteration that I had for Yuriko, but there is one small difference. We start with a Creeping Tar Pit. This enters the battlefield tapped, but at least it taps to add either a blue or a black. But it's that last ability on the card that makes this really important here. For 1 generic, 1 blue, and 1 black, you can have Creeping Tar Pit become a 3/2 blue and black horror elemental creature until end of turn, and it can't be blocked until end of turn. And it's still a land. The not being able to be blocked is quite important, and I don't think I put it in the previous iteration, so that is key. And then, of course, the usual suspect of budget dual lands, so things like Dimir Guildgate, Dismal Backwater, Submerged Boneyard, Waterfront District, Thriving Moor, and Thriving Isle. All budget dual lands, they all do their job, they all come into play tapped, unfortunately. The next one is Halimar Depths. So this enters the battlefield tapped as well, and it taps to add a blue. However, when it enters the battlefield, you also have the ability to look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order you'd like, which helps make Yuriko's second ability that deals damage to people a little bit more effective. You want to try to get the highest casting cost in there, so when one of your ninjas hits somebody and you put that card in your hand and Yuriko's ability triggers, it'll be as much damage as possible. Tectonic Edge, so I'm running out of lands that destroy non-basic lands, so I'm down to Tectonic Edge for this version. Access Tunnel, very good. It enters the battlefield untapped and taps to add a colorless. But then you can also pay 3 and tap it to have target creature with power 3 or less not be able to be blocked until end of turn. So it adds to that whole unblockable theory that you need for Yuriko. And I'm going to tell you right now that there are only 3 creatures in this deck that have a power higher than 3, and they all have ninjutsu, so it doesn't matter. Myriad Landscape for some land fetching, mana fixing, what have you, deck thinning, all the above. Same thing with Evolving Wilds and a Terramorphic Expanse. It's just to get the lands out of your deck and into either your hand or into play. And then the rest is all basic lands, so islands and swamps. And don't remember exactly how many. I think it's a roughly even number, but if you want to check out exactly, the deck list is in the description of the video, so you can. Next up, let's talk about the ramp that I chose for this deck. So it's all artifacts because blue and black just suck at ramping. They have things like one-shot Dark Ritual or Cabal Ritual style stuff, but other than that, nothing real good. So it's all artifacts. Things like Traveler's Amulet, it's a 1-to-cast artifact that you can pay 1 and sacrifice to search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So you can then play that land so you're not missing a land drop for the turn. Then you'll notice that the mana value jumps from 1 to 3 because of Yuriko's ability of doing damage based on mana values. I wanted to kind of up the amount of mana that some of these cost while still making them a little efficient. So things like Seer's Lantern. It's a 3-to-cast artifact that taps to add a colorless mana to your mana pool, but it also has an ability that you can pay 2 and tap it to scry 1, which in a deck based on Yuriko where you want manipulation for the top card, that's perfect. Then we have Dimir Keyrune, 3-to-cast mana rock that taps to add a blue or a black, but then it also has an ability that for a black and a blue that you put into it, you can have it become a 2/2 blue and black horror artifact creature until end of turn, and it's unblockable until end of turn. Then the next couple of mana rocks are going to be similar to what they can do. This is a 3-to-cast artifact that taps to add a black or a blue, but then you can also pay a black and a blue and tap it and sack it to draw a card. Similarly is Dimir Locket. It's also a 3-to-cast mana rock that taps to add a black or a blue, only now you can pay a hybrid of 4 black/blue, tap it and sack it to draw 2 cards. Next is Commander Sphere, another 3-to-cast mana rock that taps to add a mana of any color in your commander's color identity, and then for free, you can just sacrifice it to draw a card. And the last ramp card will be Hedron Archive. This is a 4-to-cast mana rock that taps to add 2 colorless, and then you can later pay 2, tap, and sack it to draw 2 cards. The theme here is that I wanted more utility out of all the mana rocks other than just adding mana, so manipulation of the top card of your library by scrying or just drawing it in general, that was the idea, while also upping the mana value a little bit more than it was in the previous iteration. Next up, I'll go over the creatures for the deck, which are the heart and soul or the meat and potatoes of the deck. There are 2 types of creatures for this build. The first one will be unblockable creatures, things that can get through to help trigger ninjutsu, and then of course we're going to have the ninjas. So we start off with Gingerbrute, a 1-to-cast 1/1 that has haste, and then you pay 1 and Gingerbrute can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste, and it's a food, so at the very worst you can actually gain 3 life from it. Benthic Infiltrator is a 3-to-cast 1/4, has no color because it's devoid of color, has a bonus of ingest, which is a Mills type of ability, and then of course it can't be blocked. Then we have Meringue River Prowler. This is a 3-to-cast 2/1. This can't be blocked, but it also can't block. And then you may cast it from your graveyard as long as you control a black or green permanent, which half the deck is black creatures, so you should be okay there. Then we have Phantom Warrior, a 3-to-cast 2/2 that can't be blocked. Phantom Ninja, another 3-to-cast 2/2 that can't be blocked, except for this is actually a ninja, so it stays on theme. Nurok Invisimancer is a 3-to-cast 2/1 that can't be blocked, and when it enters the battlefield, you can have target creature become unblockable until end of turn. A new addition that was not in the previous iteration of this deck is Keymaster Rogue. This is a 4-to-cast 3/2 that's unblockable, and then when it enters the battlefield, you return a creature that you control to its owner's hand. This wasn't in the last iteration because the theory that I have for this deck has changed. I didn't like that it was 4 mana. Now I do, because that means that if you have it on top of your library and you get it into your hand through Yuriko's second ability, that's more damage. But I also didn't like that it returns something from play to your hand. Now I do, because that could actually be quite powerful, getting things back to your hand so you can ninjutsu them back into play. Then we have Tormented Soul, a 1-to-cast 1/1 that can't block and can't be blocked. Changing Outcast, a shapeshifter with Changeling. It's a 1-to-cast 1/1 that also can't block and can't be blocked. It counts as a ninja because of Changeling. Death Cult Rogue is a 3-to-cast 2/2 that can't be blocked except by rogues. And I know that there's a couple of more rogues out there now than there used to be, but not a lot of people play them. So this is essentially unblockable. And then the final unblockable creature is Dimir Infiltrator. It's a 2 to cast 1/3 that has an added ability of Transmute. And what that means is if it's in your hand, you pay the Transmute cost. Then you can go search your library for anything that has the same mana value as the card's casting cost. So in this instance, you can go get something for 2. That means if it's in your hand, you can transmute this to go get anything for 2 mana. So that's things like a Mask of Absinthe to protect any creature that you have on the board. That's things like Silver for Master, or Master Splinter is what I call them, which is a combo piece. There's a couple things in here that you can go get with this if it's in your hand. The next section are the ninjas. This is the most important part. They all have ninjutsu, it's just depending on what the cost is. So we start with Thousand Faced Shadow, a 1 to cast 1/1. Its ninjutsu costs 4 mana. It's a flyer, and it also has this really neat ability that's combo potential, or combo piece. And I'll explain all that in the combo section of this video. It says, when it enters the battlefield, from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature, and the token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. So that does lead to combo potential, but I will explain all of that later. Moth Dust Changeling. This is a 1 to cast 1/1. Changeling means that it's basically every creature type, and that's why it's in here. So it's a ninja, so that it can trigger Yuriko's ability. But also, you can tap an untapped creature that you control to give it flying, which is sort of an evasion that you can use to help make it unblockable. It's not entirely unblockable, but it can be. Same thing with Mistwalker. It's a 3 to cast 1/4 flyer that is also a changeling. And then it has an ability that is a +1/-1 ability for each 2 you put into it. So you can actually make its power go up while its defense goes down, so it can hit harder. Then we have Prosperous Thief, a 3 to cast 3/2. Its ninjutsu cost is 2. And it says whenever one or more ninjas or rogue creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token, which could be very useful in the long run. Moon Snare Specialist is a 4 to cast 2/2 with a ninjutsu cost of 3. And then whenever it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. Doesn't have to be one of yours, it could be an opponent's. That's tempo right there. Moonblade Shinobi, a 4 to cast 3/2. Its ninjutsu cost is 3. And it says, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. And that's actually pretty important because flying, while it's not exactly can't be blocked, it's closer to it than almost any other thing. And they're good blockers. If you don't have a lot of creatures out, they are good fodder for blockers. Futurist Operative is a 4 to cast 3/4. This does not have ninjutsu, but it is a ninja. It has 2 other abilities that are quite unique. It says, as long as Futurist Operative is tapped, it's a human citizen with a base power and toughness of 1/1 and can't be blocked. As a ninja, not being able to be blocked helps the rest of your ninjas. So how that works is you declare attack and tap it. It's now a human citizen that can't be blocked. And then when it comes to the dealing damage part of combat, you can pay the 3 to untap it, turning it back into a 3/4 because it's already unblocked. It will then be a ninja when it hits. That will also trigger Yuriko. It's just really good stuff all around. Peregrine Drake is a 5 to cast 2/3 flyer that when it enters the battlefield, you untap up to 5 lands. This is a combo piece that I will tell you all about in a little bit. Inkrise Infiltrator is a 2 to cast 1/2 that has flying, an ability that helps buff it for 4 mana. It gets +2/+2. This is in here because it has evasion. It's not can't be blocked, but flying is close, like I keep telling you. Dokuchai Silencer is a 2 to cast 2/1 with ninjutsu, and its ninjutsu cost is 2. It says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may discard a creature card, and when you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker that player controls. So you're going to probably have a lot of creatures come back to your hand. Sometimes you're going to be able to dump them for this guy to be able to remove blockers from your opponent's side of the board. Nezumi Prowler, this is a 2 to cast 3/1 with a ninjutsu of 2, and whenever it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. Venomous Changeling, this is just a 3 to cast 1/3 Changeling. That means it's every creature type, so this is a ninja, or a rogue, if that matters, and it has Death Touch. Throatseeker is a 3 to cast 3/2 that says unblocked attacking ninjas you control have lifelink, so it helps keep you alive because most of the stuff you're going to have will be unblocked, so it'll gain lifelink if this is out, and it'll help give you some life. Nashi Moon Sage's Scion, this is a 3 to cast 3/2, has a ninjutsu cost of 4, and it says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards, and if you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So you might be able to steal some really, really high-end spells from your opponent if they're playing something really nice. Azura Smoke Shaper. This is a 4-cast 3/3. It's got a ninjutsu cost of 2, and it says whenever it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. Mokutai Ambusher. This is a 4-cast 3/2 with a ninjutsu cost of 2, and it simply just has lifelink. A lot of lifelink stuff in this deck. Ninja of the New Moons. This is a 5-cast 6/3 with just a ninjutsu cost of 4. Nothing fancy. This is just to have big hits. Also, it has a mana value of 5, so if it's on the top of your library, when you hit with a ninja and Yuriko is in play, you'll be able to deal 5 damage to everybody, and that's pretty big. Dokuchai Shadow Walker. This is a 6-cast 5/5. Again, simply just has ninjutsu of 4. Just like the previous card, it's here because its mana value is 6, so when you reveal it off the top of your library as the card that you use for Yuriko's second ability, it could be a total damage of 6 to every opponent. Then we have Silver for Master. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is Master Splinter, in my opinion. This is what you can search for with the Transmute card. This is a 2-cast 2/2, has a ninjutsu cost of a blue and a black. It says ninjutsu abilities that you activate cost 1 less to activate, and then it says other ninja and rogue creatures that you control get +1/+1. This is an Anthem creature for this deck specifically, but it also enables combos, which I will explain again at the end of the video. Next up is Satoru Umezawa, which can be a secret commander. This is a 3-cast 2/4 that doesn't itself have ninjutsu, but it does give every creature card in your hand, even if they don't have it, or if they do, a different cost for it. It gives them ninjutsu. It says whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in any order. This ability triggers only once each turn. But the last line says that each creature card in your hand has a ninjutsu cost of 4. So if it doesn't have it, it now has it for 4. If it does have it, if it's cheaper for some reason using this ability, to do that. If it's not, use their own ability. Next up is Ingenious Infiltrator. This is a 4-cast 2/3, has a ninjutsu cost of 2, and it says whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. You could draw a lot of cards because it says whenever A, not 1 or more. So every time a ninja hits an opponent that you control, you get to draw a card. Doesn't matter how many there are, it's at 1 for each one. And the last creature is Fallen Shinobi. This is a 5-cast 5/4 with a ninjutsu cost of 4, and an ability that says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards without paying their mana costs. Next up, I'm going to talk about the instants and sorceries of the deck. This is the second largest portion of the deck, and there are 3 different categories here. We're going to have card draw because we're in blue, we're going to have removal because we're in black, and then the last card is going to be a budget tutor. So we start off with things like Brainstorm. This costs 1. This lets you draw 3 cards, and then you put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order, which is great for making sure what card on top has a high mana value so that Yuriko's second ability can hit harder. We have Opt. This lets you scry 1 and draw a card, so again, more manipulation of the top card of your deck. Scour All Possibilities. This lets you scry 2, then draw a card, and then later on in the game, you can flash it back and do it again. We have Impulse. It lets you look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order you'd like. And then Anticipate is similar to that, only now this lets you look at 3 cards instead of 4, and the same thing. You put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. The cost reduction I was talking about earlier starts here. This is of one mind. It starts at costing 3 to cast to draw 2 cards. However, this spell can cost 2 less to cast if you control a human creature and a non-human creature. The cool thing about this deck is that the ninjas in the deck are split between humans and non-humans, so this should actually be reduced for you. Then we have Dream Cache. This is a 3-cast sorcery that lets you draw 3 cards, and you can choose 2 cards from your hand and put them either on top of your library or on the bottom of your library. And that can be in any order, so you again can adjust what the top card is, so Yuriko's ability does hit harder. Then we have Hieroglyphic Illumination. This is a 4-cast instant that lets you draw 2 cards. However, if you don't have the 4 mana, you can also cycle it away instead, so it's 1 blue to cycle it down, discard it, and draw a card. And it's not casting a spell, it's actually just using an ability, so it can't be countered unless something counters abilities. This is not really cost reduction here. If it's on top of your library when a ninja hits and Yuriko is in play, you can deal the 4 damage to each opponent, and then when it's in your hand, you can either still pay the 4 or just pay the 1 to cycle it and draw 1 card instead of drawing 2. Comparative Analysis. This is 4 to cast normally to have target player draw 2 cards. However, this has an ability called Surge, and the Surge cost for this is 3 instead of 4. And what that means is if you cast another spell this turn, you can pay the Surge cost instead, so it's a reduction in cost. Treasure Cruise, this is normally an 8 to cast sorcery that lets you draw 3 cards. However, it has a delve ability on it, which means that you can exile cards from your graveyard to have the cost reduced by 1 generic mana per card. The sister or brother to that is Dig Through Time. This is an 8 to cast instant that lets you look at the top 7 cards of your library. You put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And again, this has delve, which means you can reduce the cost by up to 6 generic mana. So those are the card draw cards. Then we've got removal. One of the most important things is removal of things that aren't really normal for the colors. So like Feed the Swarm, it destroys a creature or an enchantment, which is kind of newer for black to be able to do. They started doing that recently. One of my new favorite spot removal cards is Breathe Your Last. This is better than Murder. It's a 3 cast instant that says destroy target creature or planeswalker, and you gain 1 life for each of its colors. Price of Fame. This is normally 4 to cast. However, if it targets a legendary creature, which in Commander you normally will, it now costs 2 less. It destroys target creature, and then you can Surveil 2, which is more manipulation of the top card of your library. Assassin's Ink normally costs 4. However, this spell can cost up to 1 less to cast if you control an artifact, and an additional 1 less to cast if you control an enchantment, and destroys a creature or planeswalker. Drag to the Underworld. This is a 4 to cast instant that destroys target creature. However, this spell also costs X less to cast, where X is your devotion to black. So for each mana pip you control on the battlefield that is black, it reduces the cost by 1 generic mana. Murderous Cut, another delve card. It's normally 5 to cast, and it destroys target creature. However, you can delve to make it cost 1 generic mana less to cast for each card you exile from your graveyard. Death Rattle, another delve card. Normally costs 6 to cast, but it has delve, and it destroys target non-green creature, and it can't be regenerated. That's the black removal. The blue removal is counter magic, and I have as budget both monetarily and mana-wise as I can get here, just because you want your counter magic to cost as little as possible for most effect. So things like Negate, it's 2 to cast, and it counters a non-creature spell. Disdainful Stroke, you wouldn't ever imagine how much this can counter. It's 2 to cast, and it counters a spell with a mana value of 4 or greater. There are a lot of cards out there that are 4 mana or greater. Essence Scatter, another 2 to cast, it counters a target creature spell. And the same thing with Remove Soul. It's basically redundancy here. They're just a different name for the same effect. And that's the removal. The last instant slash sorcery is a tutor that's budget tutor. I like this card just because monetarily it's less than $1, and at least it lets you go search for something. It's called Ring Sight. It's 3 to cast. The first line doesn't really matter because you don't have anything else that worries about this, but it does say that the ring tempts you. If you need to know what that does, I'll put it in the comment section. It doesn't really matter for this deck. But it does let you search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature that you control. You reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. I like this because it does go get almost every card in your deck if you have Yuriko in play. And the last card in the deck is the lowly Mask of Absinthe. This is basically the Swiftfoot Boots. It's the Lightning Greaves, if you will. It's basically just in here to help protect your commander or any creature you think needs protection. It's a 2 to cast equipment artifact. Gives the equipped creature +1/+2 and hexproof, and it equips for 3. Nothing fancy, but you do need to protect some of your creatures, and this is how we're going to do it. So that was version 2.0 of my budget Yuriko build, but I kept referring to an infinite combo and mentioned the pieces. As a reminder, those pieces were Thousand-Faced Shadow, Peregrine Drake, and Silver Fur Master. This was also in the original version of Yuriko that I made, but I don't think I explained it very well at the time. So rather than try to explain it again myself, go to the link at the top of your screen and maybe the experts can do it better. The other thing I did in the first video was mention that there are other cards that when combined create an infinite combo, but I didn't show you. I'm going to rectify that in this video and show you a few more. There's one that uses Thousand-Faced Shadow, Peregrine Drake, and now Moon Circuit Hacker. How this combo works and what it does is explained in the new link at the top of your screen. Then there's one that uses Satoru Umezawa, Peregrine Drake, and Silver Fur Master. How this combo works and what this combo does is again explained in the new link at the top of your screen. The funny thing is that there are actually more combinations of cards in this deck that can make infinite combos, but YouTube only allows me to add so many links to show you them. So what I'll say is this. If you go to edhrec.com, type in Yuriko, and then go to the combo section, you can see all the combos that are possible with this budget list of cards. It's kinda crazy. And that, my friends, was my latest budget build that uses Yuriko the Tiger Shadow as the commander. This deck had a budget of $40, but was actually sold before the video was even made. It went to a friend and fellow mod of the Budget Magic group, who actually got it for a friend of his, so that was nice. This new version came about because while I've been playing for a very long time, there's always room to learn and adapt strategies no matter how much you think you know or how long you've been playing. I like this version better than the previous one because it has a slightly better way of dealing more damage out to all opponents, while also having a couple of more powerful spells that give you better utility. This is like the third time I've done an updated video for a previous budget build, and I think there are a couple of others that could use this since they are starting to get up there in age. My budget videos on decks that used Finn and Talrand, for example, are 3 and 4 years old respectively. There have been quite a lot of new cards printed in that time that I'm sure these decks could use, so I'll be doing some updated build videos for some of my older budget decks in the coming months. If there's a budget commander video of mine that you'd like to see get an update, please let me know in the comments and I'll add it to my list. So what did you think of this updated build? Was it better, worse, or roughly the same as the previous iteration? I'd love to hear all your thoughts about it in the comment section. Well, my friends, that's all I've got for you this week. Thanks for watching, but if you're looking for more magic-related content to watch, please browse through my channel as I'm sure you'll find more of my videos that you'll enjoy. Before you head off though, please, real quick, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet so you can be notified when I release new content. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you all very soon.